Hey, John Sonmez from SimpleProgrammer.com. I'm back answering some email questions. If you haven't noticed by now, I've basically started answering a lot of the questions I get via email through this video channel, and I think it makes a lot of sense because instead of wasting a lot of time individually answering each question, it only values is only valuable to one person. I've been able to sort of answer these questions and at the same time create some content that hopefully is useful to multiple people. Also, if you've noticed, I'm still going to be doing my weekly kind of high quality videos. Eventually I'd like to transition everything to the high quality, but in the interest of time and producing as much content as possible within that time frame, I'm going to stick to this format for now. So this question is about mobile development, and I think this is a good question about how to get started in mobile development. So this is from Vulcan, and Vulcan says, "Hi John, first of all, thank you for everything you've created. I'm trying to follow you on every medium and benefiting a lot from your tutorials, tips, and insights. I have a question about mobile development. If you were to start mobile development today as an entrepreneur or entreprogrammer, which platform would you target? iOS, most lucrative market, obviously, but also huge competition. Android, widespread and mature market. Or Windows, have high hopes about unification process of all Windows platforms in Windows 10, so it feels like a good opportunity, also less competition, but way less users. I know the answer to such generic questions is it depends, but still just wanted to give you a shout, at least wanted to thank you for all the hard work, if nothing else. Kind regards, Vulcan." So Vulcan, that's a pretty cool name, by the way. I have to say, that must be, I'm guessing that's Russian, but anyway, basically, I'm going to try to avoid saying it depends. I'd like to give as many pointed, opinionated answers as possible. I don't like to use it depends, and I think I can give you my real opinion here, which is basically I would say iOS. Now, the reason why I would say this is just because my personal experience and other people I've talked to, it seems like that if you're going to pick a platform, iOS is definitely going to be the best platform where you're more likely to be able to charge money for your application and make money from that. That is if you're charging straight for your app. If you're going to give away a free app, Android might be better. I'm not sure. That's why I would still say iOS. Windows is really difficult because there are so few users on that platform. Now, if you developed a really good app for Windows, obviously there's not as many good apps out there, especially for the desktop, right? The Windows RT, Windows 8, Windows 10, and when I go into that app store, I'm just there's really nothing. There's really very low rated apps and not very much good stuff. So I think there's some opportunity there. But definitely I would say iOS. Now, depending on your skills, right, what I would probably recommend is using something like Xamarin, which is basically a C# way to develop apps cross-platform in C#. They came out with this new thing called Xamarin Forms, which basically lets you reuse like something like 90% of the code in most cases. But I would build a skeleton using that and still target iOS. I wouldn't waste my time yet developing Android and Windows versions right away. I'd first get an iOS version out and see how that does. And that's sort of how I would go. Now, there's a couple of things to keep in mind here. Well, first of all, I mean, I could be wrong, but I think iOS is from everything that I'm seeing the safest bet for starting out, and then roll out into other platforms. But the other thing to keep in mind here is that you're not really going to be an App Store millionaire, or you're not going to make a lot of money as an entrepreneur in the App Store unless two things happen, one of two things, preferably both, right? You get lucky and you hit some really big app, and even then, I listened to a podcast on Hansel Minutes about the guy that did the number one app, and his app was number one in the iOS App Store, and he didn't make as much money as I would have. He's not a rich multimillionaire from it, which I suspected that would be the case if you had a number one app. So I was kind of shocked by that. So that's the first thing, right? You need to get lucky and have an app go really high. And then the second thing is you need a volume. You need multiple apps. I've barely got any apps in the App Store. I just have a couple of apps, and I make like maybe 50, 100 bucks a month off of my apps in the App Store, right? That's not a huge amount of money. But if I had like 20 apps that were making $50, $100 a month, that would be pretty good. Or if I had 50 apps that were doing that, and a couple of them that were doing really good, right? Then I could actually make a living off of it, and so you kind of got to plan this out. It's a long-term thing. You're going to develop a lot of apps. And even then, it's kind of questionable. If I were starting out as a mobile developer, entrepreneurial type of ambitions, this is the strategy I would do. I would plan out about 20 apps that I need to create in a timeline for doing that. At the same time, I would also do some consulting in this area and start developing apps for other people at an hourly wage, sort of build a business around this. I would start putting out content through a blog about my apps and about my ability to develop the apps and tutorials and things like that. So I'd be sort of becoming an expert in that space and getting people coming to me to develop their apps, and also getting word out about my apps. And I would really start thinking about sort of an app network and a content marketing strategy, because a lot of mobile development today, I think, to be successful and make money, is about marketing your app. There's so many apps out there in all the stores. You need some way to market your app well. So hopefully that answers your question. Thanks. This is a really good question. I think a lot of people are confused about this, but I think you can do it. I think mobile development makes a lot of sense. I think that things are changing. We're getting to the point where it might start making a lot of sense to just do HTML5 web-based apps. I don't think we're quite there yet, but I'm changing my tune on this, and I think this is coming soon. I still think this is a really good space to be in. Like I said, a lot of jobs are going to be in this space. There's a lot of opportunity, and things are still going to change here in this space as app stores that have hundreds of thousands of apps become more curated, and that process that eventually is going to change to some degree. So we'll have to see what happens here, but definitely I would consider investing in this space, and you can be a full-time mobile app developer. It's definitely a viable career option, and a good one, I think, for the long term. If you like this video, if you think it would help someone, please share it, and if you'd like to get more of these videos, subscribe to my channel. Take care.